Hello, pioneers. When you see the words I have carved, maybe I'm dead because my brain stopped functioning. But no matter what universe you come from, my story, the fate of our race, will be closely related to you. Hugo award-winning work, Exhalation, written by Ted Chiang. On our planet, people have always believed that air is the source of life. But this is not the case. Every day we need to consume 2 air-filled lungs, then go to the air recharge station to take the empty lungs out of the lung cavity. Get new lungs filled with air. This is the only way to ensure that we don't die seconds after we run out of air. Therefore, it has always been an important daily routine for people to go to air supply stations to replace their lungs with new ones. Empty lungs that are replaced are transferred to the air distribution machine to be refilled for the next person to use. People are always hanging out at air supply stations and having a good time with people. Discussing new and exciting things happening around the world, people can learn about information from distant places without leaving home. Even those from the very edge of the world, where they're surrounded by a solid wall made of chrome extending infinitely upward from the ground. I first heard those rumors at a gas supply station. It is traditional for the announcer to recite an annual ritual poem on the first day of the year at noon. Whenever the recitation is finished, the clock in the bell tower will chime at the right time. However, the most recent poetry reading was an anomaly. The bell had already rung before the recital was over. What's even more strange is that this happened in several areas at the same time. Initially, it was thought that the clocks in those belfries were malfunctioning at the same time, but people checked and never found any problems. And people just left it at that. But I think there's something fishy about this. When I heard about this anomaly also appeared on a Mercury time clock, I'm getting restless. I presume that if there is no problem with the clocks, it is because our brain is becoming dull. This is too pessimistic a view. I didn't even dare bring it up. I had to verify it quietly. I'm a well-qualified anatomist. It has been difficult to break through the anatomical research for a long time. There are 2 reasons for this. 1, people have a high life expectancy and fatal disasters are not common. People rarely die. 2nd, each fatal accident results in the rupture of an air-filled lung. The force of the explosion will cause severe damage to the main torso. There are simply not enough torsos for research. Only some of the limbs remain intact. In addition, our anatomy still has a huge unsolvable problem: memory. The dominant theory of memory for decades has been that there is a full sheet of gold foil in the brain of our race, and all one's experiences are inscribed on this gold leaf. I do not share this view. If our experiences were really recorded in this way, then why is there still forgetting? The advocates of inscription theory argue that gold leaf will pass with time, become displaced from below the memory reading probe, eventually moved completely out of the touch range of the memory probe, and this means that one can either turn the knob to see one's records engraved on the gold leaf, or be able to reveal all the memories of the deceased during their life. This theory is full of temptations. However, I find it unconvincing. The view of the opposition, which I support, is our memories are being stored in some kind of medium. By turning the gear or switch, our memories can be cleared or preserved. For example, when a person who died of air depletion can be replaced with new lungs. Although the person can be revived, they'll have no memory at all. This view can better explain the phenomenon. The shock of death resets all gears or switches in some way. And I've been conceiving a less conventional experiment which can help me find out the ultimate truth. But I've been hesitating until the news of this Mercury clock came, which reinforced my point of view. Let me make up my mind to start experimenting. I want to dissect my own brain with my own hands. As I said at the beginning, our story will be closely related to your destiny. I know the idea of self-dissection is too crazy to say, but it is the only option to find out the truth. It took me a long time to overcome my mental barrier and complete the tedious preparation needed. Once everything is in place, the experiment begins. I first remove the curved metal shell at the back of my head, then move the periscope. In my desperate longing, I caught a glimpse of an extremely aesthetic and complex mechanic. The internal structure of the brain fits well with the speculation. An engine is located in the center of the head. What surrounds it are dozens of parts with delicate shapes attached to the outer layer. I guess they are used to store memories. And there are exclusive air reservoirs between components to transport air. I continued to observe. the distribution of components is very dense, especially the cognitive engine in the center of the brain. I carefully used the robot to remove a whole unit of parts from the cognitive engine. I thought it would weaken my thinking capability. However, it proved to be of no consequence. For a more detailed observation, I took off the surrounding parts again. By the time I could finally observe the cognitive engine and the disassembled components from any angle, a question came to my mind. What is the body really made of? Then I began the journey to discover myself. I turned the microscope towards a memory unit. Started checking its structure. I don't expect to solve the mystery of memory, but perhaps I can deduce from this way how memories are stored. Just as expected, there is no gold foil in the brain for recording. But surprisingly, the rows of gears and switches are not there either. The parts inside the storage unit are just a row of air tubes. Through the gap between the air tubes, I faintly saw ripples inside the storage unit. I continued to observe. Finally, a glimpse of the secret of memory. Those air tubes have been constantly and rapidly branching out into tiny capillaries. Interwoven with capillaries is a dense lattice mesh made of woven metal wires. Delicate leaves hanging on the mesh. They kept swinging. These constantly and rapidly changing states are achieved by the airflow from the capillary tube. I got lost in such a simple yet complicated scene. It took a long time to dawn on me. I think I understand everything. These leaves are what I look for to store the beauty of my memories. And those ripples are the expression of memories. The arrangement of the leaves is being read moment by moment and is transmitted to the recognition engine. Memory is encoded as states of the tiny leaves. No, it is more accurately described as the airflow that is encoded to constantly change direction and drive the leaves. Air is not what we usually think it is. It's only to power the engine and realize our thinking, but also our thinking medium. Our thinking is a pattern of airflow. Our memories are recorded, not by the indentations on the gold leaf or the position of the switch, rather it relies on a constant stream of air. Now I fully comprehended the nature of this grid structure, and finally understood the fundamental reason for the spewing of gold dust, the person who lost their memories, and the abnormality of the clock. The only component of the brain is gold. It is because gold is the most malleable and ductile material that can serve as a medium. To achieve rapid memory erasure and storage, the thinnest leaf can be formed to satisfy this movement mechanism. Those who run out of air will die. Even if new lungs are installed, memory will be lost. This is all because once the airflow stops, all leaves will appear pendulous. This means that the mindset and consciousness they represent is extinct. I finally realized that the anomaly in the clock was not due to the clock tower's time getting faster. Rather, our minds have slowed down. Because of the slowing down of the flow of air that keeps our brains thinking. I'm afraid my worst fears are coming true. This is why I think this matter is closely related to all the universe. But what could cause the airflow to the brain to slow down? The only answer is that the air pressure in the outside environment is rising. And that means the solid walls on our planet that stretch upward have a certain height, out of our sight. The chrome wall that surrounds our world forms a dome at the very top. Our universe is not an open well. Instead, it is a closed chamber. Air gradually accumulates in the chamber until the air pressure is the same as in the underground gas tank. What our people don't know is air is neither created nor disappears. The total amount of air in the universe remains constant. If we only need air in our lives, then we will never die. However, now it is different. The real source of life is the air pressure difference. Air flows from a dense place to a thin place. The activity of our minds and the operation of every machine we build is all driven by the flow of air. So we are not consuming air. Instead, it is turning high-pressure air into low-pressure air. Every movement of my body, every thought in the mind is contributing to the balance of the cosmic pressure. And once the pressure everywhere in the universe reaches a constant value, air no longer flows. Then the end of the world will come quietly. Realizing this, I was deeply frightened, trying to restrain my desperation, but in turn, it increased my uneasiness about this state of restraint. I intentionally or unintentionally adjust the field of view of the periscope, take my mind out of the structure of my brain, stop magnifying my panic. Then began the lengthy installation process. At first, when I told my anatomy colleagues about my findings, they didn't believe. However, after performing several measurements of atmospheric pressure and a second examination of the brain, the truth made them start to agree with me. The background pressure in our universe is indeed rising, and the speed of our thinking is indeed slowing down. The truth is widely spread, causing widespread panic in the world. For the first time, people realized that death was inevitable. Many call for a strict reduction in activity and condemn those who waste air. Gradually, this condemnation began to escalate into angry abuse. Some communities even evolved to have death penalties. Fortunately, this did not last long. People started to think of more scientific ways to solve the problem. For example, the reversal of the air pressure equilibrium process is prototyped. They built a machine that compresses the volume of air, claiming it can restore the air to the air pressure of the storage tank and activating the entire universe. However, upon careful examination of this machine, you'll find its fatal flaw. It is consuming more air to achieve the reversing. In other words, it cannot reverse the air pressure balance. Instead, it is speeding up the process as everything else in the world. Disillusionment doesn't make reversalists hesitate. They claim that they will eventually find a perpetual motion machine to replenish our universe. I am not as optimistic as they are. I believe that the process of balancing air pressure is irreversible. In this universe, all power sources are generated by air pressure differences. So there's no machine that can increase the air pressure difference. The air pressure will eventually disappear and the power will eventually dry up. People's minds will eventually freeze. The universe will eventually reach complete balance as well. Breath, the destruction of a universe. There are also anatomists and mechanics who have started to develop alternatives to the brain regulation valve, attempting to maintain constant air pressure inside the brain. Of course, this does not change the arrival of our physical slowness and slowed thinking in any way. Our universe will eventually come to absolute balance. All life and thought will cease. Time thus lost its meaning. Yet I still have a faint hope. Maybe our universe is not the only gas chamber. Or maybe there's another universe with a higher or lower pressure or even vacuum existing somewhere else, inside which lives inhabitants who have capabilities far beyond ours. They may be able to drill through that extra thick metal wall to open up a pipeline. By then, our universe will be a gas tank to help them develop civilization. The air that powers me can also drive others. It was this thought that helped me to carve these words. Of course, I won't fool myself that this is my way of regeneration, because I am not one of those air. I am just the embodiment of the airflow pattern. Temporary embodiment. But if the inhabitants of other universes send us explorers, then they will wander through our streets, observe our rigid bodies, surveying everything we have, and marvel at our lives. With a little luck, I hope that you, who is reading this inscribed record, is one of them. Whether or not your brain is powered by the air I consume when I think, by reading my words, your mindset mimics the mindset I once had. In this way, I got a new life from you. Explorer, I wish you all the best. But I doubt that the fate that befell us may be or may not also befall you. Because I believe that the tendency to balance is not only a unique feature of our universe, rather, it is the intrinsic nature of all universes. If you end up with such an ending, please don't be sad. Because even if the life of a universe can be predicted, the diversity of life in the universe is also uncountable. Our architecture, our art, music, and poetry. None of our respective lives can be predicted. Because these are not predetermined. Our universe may only be able to exhale quietly as it slides towards equilibrium, but in which the creation of us and the colorful world is a miracle. Only the universe that gave birth to you can rival it.